Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Keeping It Real with San. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about a requested topic once again by one of my audience members, which was the topic on fragile masculinity. And I won't lie, that topic really had me thinking for quite some bit because I was like really asking myself, how can I approach this topic? Because, it's so valid and it's so deep and it's something that we tend to shy away from and we hardly really address it, especially as men ourselves. So did a little bit of research because of course like I don't want to just talk about what I only knew, but I also want to see other people's perceptions and other people's thought processes about fragile masculinity. But first things first, let's break it down. What is fragile masculinity? Basically, fragile masculinity is when a male's gender identity is being questioned, or basically, in other words, when your manliness is being questioned, like, is he really deserving of being considered a man? Is he really deserving of being considered a male? And there's a lot of factors that really impact or cause like fragile masculinity and a few emotions, behavioral patterns, race, culture, expectations of society for genders, gender dominance, meaning like a female being in a higher position compared to a man, whether it's in a romantical relationship or of any ties of that sort. And of course, the LGBTQ men really face it the most, fragile masculinity. And it was also something that I came across in my research that I did. But to really break it down, let's first look at emotions. The reason emotions cause fragile masculinity or for a man to be questioned of his manliness, because obviously it's expected that a male never displays his emotions. He's always able to control himself. He's also always able to control his emotions and his actions. Basically, he has emotional intelligence. And besides emotional intelligence, that it just makes you look weak. It's often associated with being feminine when a male shows his emotions and is also often seen as being weak, like that guy is weak for being such an emotional guy. But I feel like it's really unfair and it's a biased statement because at the end of the day, we are all human beings and all human beings contain emotions. It's just that some of us display it differently, some of us have a different way of interpreting emotions. But I feel it's very unfair to say no man should be showing his emotions because it makes him look less than and it makes him look weak, which really causes guys to really shy away and hide certain things that they would really like to talk about and certain things that are bothering them because they feel like they never have the platform to do so. And if they do express all of this, then they feel like they'll be judged, looked differently, whether it's from friends, family, society. So it's really one of the things that male really have challenge with, and that is expressing their emotions and being in a position that validates them when they express their emotions. But moving on to the next topic of behavioral patterns. Behavioral patterns is obviously the manner in which a man carries himself, behaves, and doesn't behave. That's often associated with their manliness, like the way they talk, the way they walk, the things that they do. For example, like it's often seen, but now it's changed. Like it's changed, and a lot of men and males are really incorporating self care more into their routines. But before, when a man used to have like facial care, routine or a certain way or certain products that they use on themselves or their bodies and going for like manicures and pedicures, it always deemed with being feminine and being less than. It was said that a man should never do that. A man should just use a bar soap and a washcloth and call it a day. It was always seen as being feminine whenever males did such things to really take care of themselves and show themselves self love. But I feel more and more and more every day in society, it is being welcomed and accepted that men nowadays really do believe in self care and, wanting to go out of the ways to make sure that they get the best treatment that they can get and give themselves the best experience that they can with regards to certain things. Race and culture. The reason at first I didn't even think of race and culture like it playing a role, but once I really spoke to a few people about it, it really began to make sense with me. And it was often said that obviously, when you are a white person, it doesn't mean that it never happens, but your race is more susceptible to like accepting or welcoming the idea of, you know, a man being feminine, and they don't believe like there's specific gender roles and stuff that a man needs to execute or a male needs to execute to be considered a man. And for example, even if a white person was to come out that they're gay, some people say that they expression and like them coming out is more likely to be accepted than by black families or black people or African cultures, because it is said that African cultures place such high expectations on men, that men have to be this, men have to do this, they have to lead, they have to control, they have to provide, they have to, be like the epitome of life for the people around them, but also for their wives and children. And if they come up short, or if they're not able to live up to these certain expectations, then it's obviously that their gender role and identities are often questioned. Of like, are you even a man if you can't do this, this, and that? Are you even a man if you're not able to protect, if you're not strong, if you're not fit? So it's said that African cultures do place such high expectations on men that it makes it more common for us, well, not us, but it makes it more common for black people, black men to be exposed to fragile masculinity and for them to always be questioned and looked at differently and basically always be in the spotlight of like, are they being a man? Are they living up to the expectations of being men and things like that? And another subtopic is expectations of society for genders. And this kind of ties in with behavioral pattern. Basically, society has placed expectations on genders that if you're female, then you should be this, this, that. You should like, for example, like pink. You should like dolls. You should, you know, love to cook. You should love to clean. Like basically stereotypes are presented with the genders. And if, for example, for men, like they have to like blue, they should like cars, they should work hard, they should be strong, they should be do this and be that. And if certain men are not living up to those certain things, then obviously it ties in with them not living up to the gender roles and expectations that society has created for them, which also leads to fellow men looking down on each other and saying, I don't deem that person worthy of being a man. I don't deem that person being, of relevance and importance to manhood, which also really leads to fragile masculinity coming into play where men feel like they're less than. And also, another subtopic is gender dominance. Gender dominance is when, for example, a woman is in a stronger position compared to a man. And this is often associated with relationships. If a woman, for example, provides more in the household or in the family than the man. For example, if the woman has a more controlling, dominant uh, responsibility or circumstances in the relationship, then it's always seen as the man is the feminine one and he's not the one that wears the pants. He's weaker, he's less than, because he allows his life to be ruled and controlled by a woman because she's doing more things, she's providing more. And what is he doing? What is his purpose for existing in this relationship if he's not going to live up to the expectations of being a man? And I feel like this is really unfair because in the article that I read, it showed that men, one of the reasons they be more likely to become dangerous is because of fragile masculinity. Them always feeling the need to live up to certain expectations. Them always feeling the need to live up to what other guys expect of them, and it also leads to substance abuse. It also leads to violence. They say one of the reasons that women encounter abuse in their relationships is because the man usually stems from a place of fragile masculinity. He does not feel like he's strong. He does not feel like he has dominance or control over the relationship. So, what other way can he prove that other than to physically overpower a woman? Because that is easy for them to do. It's not even a challenge. Men are just naturally more stronger than women. So, like fragile masculinity does have a lot of negative outcomes when males do experience it. And it also creates a lot of harm, not to themselves, but also to the people around them. And it also diminishes their character and their light. And the last sub topic and impacting cause of fragile masculinity, of course, and the people that face it the most is the LGBTQ men, you know, and like when you're gay or when you wish to become just transgender as a man, then obviously automatically you're ripped of your manlyhood, you're ripped of your manliness because it's often seen like you might as well just be a woman. You're very feminine, which is not always the case because there are some gay people that are very strong and dominant in their masculinity and in their masculine energy. There's also transgender people that are still also very like strong in their masculine energy. So I feel like to base that on who they love or who they would and where their love lies is not really the most effective way of determining a man's manliness and manlyhood. And I feel like nobody should assert that position of always wanting to determine who's more of a man than who, because I feel like in society we've always been taught to compete and we always want to compete for the higher title. We always want to prove I'm the man. We always want to prove I'm worthy of the people around me. I'm worthy of the things I have. For example, like one of the most triggering question you can ask a man is, "Are you scared?" And it shows with that when you ask a man, "Are you scared?" it really leads them to doing things that they don't want to do because why? They feel that they now have to prove that I'm not scared. I am a man. I'm fearless. And, throw anything at me and I'll destroy it. I'll dominate it. And it really causes certain men to lose touch with their character and become something they're not. Why? Because they just strive for acceptance. They strive for a community and understanding, but they strive for it in the wrong places and in the wrong manners. And one of the ways to overcome fragile masculinity is, of course, to speak to someone, whether it's to seek professional help, whether that's through therapy or to even talk to friends, family members, and anyone in general who is going to be validating what you feel and trying to guide you in a positive manner and try to support you with that mental issue that you might currently face of you not feeling like you're living up to what you expect yourself or you're not living up to what society expects of you, because often at times when men face difficulties with fragile masculinity or they gender roles and identity being questioned is that they always feel like they have nobody they can turn to. They feel like if they display emotions, if they talk about their problems, if they whine and complain, then they're going to be looked at as weak. What kind of man complains? What kind of man has problems in life? You're supposed to like just dominate life. You're supposed to be strong and you're supposed to be having everything under control, which is never the case. Some men lose themselves and they really get lost in the things that they have going on. So talking to someone is vital and it's very important because being able to vent, being able to express yourself always leads to a lot of issues being prevented, but it also leads to you being more content with your life and also leads to you actually finding a way to push through your problem and always being reminded that there's always a brighter tomorrow, there's always positivity, and there's always light in the midst of the darkness and the challenges that you encounter and you feeling like excluded or you feeling alone. So yeah, that's pretty much my take on fragile masculinity and how it really affects society, men, and the people that are in those men's lives, and how we can, try to be more accommodating of it. And that's ripping this need to always identify who's more of a man and always feeling the need to make things more of a competition. But besides that, I would also like to just allow males to know that it's okay to be who you want to be, and you never have to feel the need to confine to anybody's expectations but your own. and you never need to feel the need to prove yourself to anybody but yourself. But that doesn't mean be toxic and just be negative and live life however you want to live it and deem fit. No, of course, don't be toxic, don't be negative force, don't be negative energy, but at the same time, don't allow external factors to rob you of your identity or feel like you're not deserving of that identity, because at the end of the day, we are who we think we are and we are who we are willing to work towards becoming. So, with that being said, peace and love. Please, guys, be sure to share the video, you know, like if you found it impactful or inspirational, comments, topics that you'd like me to talk about, comment anything basically in general. If you feel like this video really resonated with you, leave a comment. Maybe someone else might comment on what you commented on. And that's how you kind of build a community, just interacting with each other. And I also want to be able to express what people think or want to see or feel through the videos that I do, because I want it to be transactional. I don't want it to always be things that come from me, from me, from me. I also want it to be things that come from you guys, my audience, and my people. But with that being said, stay blessed. Peace and love. Until next time.